be showing. Hopefully you guys can see that.
I can.
Okay. This is about masters of photography or more masters of photography. And I have found 8 people I'm going to profile that are past masters and some that are still living. What makes a person a master of photography? Well, that's a good question. It's having an eye, having great composition, lighting, and that magical it factor that strikes us emotionally. Most people, the great photographers, take pictures that tell a story. So I'm going to turn some of those on right now. The first one you will recognize, I'm quite sure. So this tells a very good story of Iwo Jima planting the flag. You're all familiar with that one. This tells the story of famine in Africa. And all these pictures are worth at least 1,000 words. So I'm going to be showing you today about 200,000 words. Young man driving a car. I like this one. It's a young boy pulling his father up. His father's an alcoholic. This is a story. Don't you wonder about this couple? They're in Paris. She's 8 inches taller than him, but he's the boss, it seems to be, doesn't he? I don't know what you get from this one. It's a girl trying to read in a big city, wanting people to leave her alone. I think this is great contrast. Man, people playing golf with a volcano behind them. You couldn't ask for a better contrast and more irony than this one. This doesn't require any explanation. This is one of my favorite photographs that tell a story. Look at all the men, they're all men, along this sidewalk, this poor woman walking along. It tells a million stories. Amazing. Look at all these people, all ages, and they're all focused right on her. Love it. Don't know the photographer. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about 8 different photographers, and this is Edward Sheriff Curtis. And here's his photograph in just a second. Very handsome man, born in Wisconsin, had to take care of his family. He was born in 1868, moved to Puget Sound area of Washington, took care of his father, became badly injured in a lumber accident, was confined to bed for about a year, and decided that he couldn't do much physical activity after that, so he decided to take up photography. Ultimately, he took photographs of 40,000 photographs of 80 tribes of the North American Indian. That was his life goal. It ruined his life, but he created 20 volumes of the North American Indian, and they were classic photographs, and here are some. His idea was to give the North American Indian dignity and pride. There's Canyon de Chelly, and you've probably been there. These are some Hopi girls on the Hopi Reservation in northern Arizona. This photograph got Edward Sheriff Curtis $75,000 from J.P. Morgan because he needed money for his project. He went to New York. Morgan turned him down until he showed him this photograph of a Mojave girl, 11 years old, named Moza. And this is Chief Joseph, you know, from the Nez Perce tribe. Here's a magnificent photograph of a chief named Shot in the Hand. This is a 94-year-old man on his horse. Okay, the next photographer is Edward Weston, born in 1886 in Highland Park, Illinois, which is near Chicago. His mother died when he was 5 years old, and the father got remarried. He didn't get along with the stepmother. He spent most of his time alone, was given a camera at the age of 16, and did not graduate from high school, moved to California to be near an older sister. And while he was there, he married an older woman, eventually had 4 sons who all became photographers. He used a large format camera, excuse me. So he photographed between California and Mexico. He got a Guggenheim fellowship to help him. And so he photographed mostly forms, shapes, landscapes, and lived in Carmel, California, which is beautiful. Now, let me show you this first photograph after. This is one of him coming up as an older person. So he was born in 1880. We're getting beeps, I know, for some reason. This photograph you might have seen. It's a pepper. And Weston did a series of peppers, and he experimented with very small pinhole camera apertures. F250 instead, not F8 or F11 or F16, but F250. This is a hours-long exposure, like 6 to 8 hours long, to get this clarity. Okay, then, like I said before, he took photographs. Oh, he had about 8 or 9 cats where he lived. This is one of them. And you'll notice the forms that he uses. This isn't a nude woman. So check the form there and in the next photograph. They're very similar. And then look at the landscapes that he photographs. Very similar. The next one or two. Sand dunes. Beautiful scenery. He also liked doing seashells. Various forms. And this is kind of an unusual photograph. Not sure who the person is. The next person I'm going to talk about is Alfred Eisenstadt. He was born in 1898 in Germany. That's him. And he was a photojournalist in Germany. He used a Leica camera, basically, there, as you see that. He photographed the rise of Hitler in the 30s. And because he was Jewish, he decided to move to the United States. He became a photojournalist also here. Became famous. I don't know what the sound is that we're hearing. He became famous. 2,500 of his photographs were published. He had 92 Life magazine covers. His pictures told stories. But he also photographed the rich and famous, as you'll see. This is a drum major and some children in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Very cool. Amazing picture of Joseph Goebbels. Here's Haile Selassie. Thomas Hart Benton, the artist. Sophia Loren. And as you know, Marilyn Monroe. And Churchill. It's one of his most famous shots. These are some children at a puppet show and their reaction. Thought it was priceless. This is his most famous photograph. This was VJ Day, 1945, Times Square in New York City. The sailor kissing the nurse. And just what's very interesting is to look at the other people in the photograph. Think of the joy that these people were experiencing. So this is the one that he's most known for. The next one, you may or may not have heard of Man Ray. His real name was Emanuel Radzinski. He was born in Philadelphia. He wanted to become an artist. His parents were clothing workers. He wanted to become an artist. So he went to New York City. He was an experimental artist. He did sculptures and painting and mobiles, everything, anything he could possibly do. 1921, he was born in 1890. So at about the age of 30, he moved to Paris and stayed there for 10 years experimenting. He was a surrealist, like Salvador Dali. This is called Glass Tears, beautiful shot. One of his most famous. He had a style all his own. Coco Chanel. So he did some fashion photography, among other things. Now we come to a man called Platon. And Platon is still living. He was born in 1968, so he's 52 years old, or will be this year. He was born in Greece, moved to France with his family, and when he was 24 years old, he moved to New York City to become a full-time photographer. He took many portraits of famous people throughout the world and some of refugees and victims in Africa. He worked for Time Magazine and the New Yorker. His idea was to capture the essence of a person. So here are some examples. A lot of politicians, stars. This is Clint Eastwood. He wanted to know the real inner core of the person. George W. Bush did not trust him. He said, I don't want you taking one of those photographs that embarrasses me. And so he took this one of him. Dustin Hoffman. Muammar Gaddafi, and he said this was very intimidating to take this picture. He traveled the world to find these. This is Vladimir Putin. He said he wanted to sort of get to know him. So he asked him if he spoke English. Putin said that he did. And Platon says, well, do you like the Beatles? And Putin said, yes, I do. I love the Beatles. Platon said, who's your favorite? He said, Paul. So he made a connection with him there. And Putin said that he spoke perfect English, which we don't know. He said this picture was taken about 1.5 inches away from his nose. One of his most famous. This made the cover, I think, of Time magazine about 15 years ago. Michelle Obama. And Susan Sarandon, and he's taken many, many more. It's worth looking up Platon, Platon, for his work. Now, you know about Annie Leibovitz, you've heard of her. She was born in Connecticut in 1949. She's still taking photographs, 6 feet tall. She mostly photographs the rich and famous for various magazines like Vanity Fair, Rolling Stone, Vogue. This is a picture of her coming up. Mostly she does medium format work and mostly studio. Jennifer Lawrence. A young picture of Leonardo DiCaprio. Don't know exactly who this is, but it's quite a shot. Johnny Depp. This is not a famous person, but she took this because it was just an interesting shot of a father and son, and I think he's a Czechoslovakian. I think it's a beautiful story. This is Dakota Fanning at the age of about 10. What a fabulous shot this is. And there's Queen Elizabeth. Apparently there was some dissension when she was photographing the Queen, whether or not she should be wearing her crown or not. But it's an interesting one, and not sure where it was taken, probably New York City. This one is pretty famous. Check it out. Willie Shoemaker, who was about 4'5", and Will Chamberlain, who was 7'3", studying contract. Now we get to Sebastio Salgado, who, in my opinion, is probably the greatest living black and white photographer. He's 76 years old, from Brazil. He's traveled the world. He started as an economist, but in his 20s, he started photography. He's traveled the world photographing everywhere from Africa to Antarctica. One of his most famous series of shots is in a gold mine in Brazil, where there are thousands and thousands of people working for about $1 a day. You'll see. He also took photographs in Kuwait, in the desert oil fields. There's a native chieftain that he found. A lady in an oil field. Fabulous African shot. No words needed for this. Lighting on this is just amazing. Here's the gold mine I was talking about. See all those shapes down there? Those are people at the bottom climbing the ladders, at the top, thousands and thousands of people carrying bags of dirt. You'll see. It's one of the gold miners. And those people are all desperate for money, poverty-stricken. And there they are climbing these ladders. This is in Antarctica. Here's the oil field fire in Kuwait. Pretty dramatic. There's a video, or not a video, but a movie called Salt of the Earth. If you get a chance to watch it, it is about Salgado. And I think it was nominated for an Academy Award and got a People's Choice Award at the Cannes Film Festival. And here he has been to Monument Valley. Next one is Vivian Maier, and this is quite a story. She was born in 1926 in New York City. The story is her mother was French, her father was Austrian. They kind of moved back and forth between France and the United States. For a while, they lived on a farm in France. Then the farm was sold, so there was some money available. Vivian was able to travel the world. She became interested in photography. As you see, she took photographs with a Rolleiflex, always looking down as she photographed people. She took photographs around the world, in New York, and mostly in Chicago. She was a nanny for rich people, including Phil Donahue's family. So for 40 years, she was a nanny. She took pictures, and nobody ever knew anything about them. She was a hoarder. This is a self-portrait of her. She was a hoarder of magazines, boxes, and everything. She kept her belongings in a storage space. She couldn't afford to keep up the payments. Someone went in and auctioned off everything that was in there. There were 150,000 photographs and all kinds of rolls of film. And soon after this happened, she died. So none of her photographs were really exhibited until after her death. So she was a street photographer, and she found stories on the street, as you'll see. And so when her work was found, and then the film was developed and pictures were printed, it got onto Flickr. If you know what Flickr is, it's kind of a website for photography. And then she became kind of famous after her death. And now exhibits of her work have been shown in museums. But look at some of her work. It's fabulous. It tells, every one of these pictures tells a story. A man in a newsstand. She had the eye.
It's too good.
It was a blue. This is just a couple of women coming down the street. Isn't that quite a shot? Probably a mother and daughter. Her work is like simplicity, that it gets right to the point. Love this one, the composition. There was also a movie made about her called Finding Vivian Maier. And it was up for an Academy Award nomination also, I think in 2013. We saw it at the Loft Cinema, and I think you can find it on Amazon. The last photographer we'll talk about today is Gordon Parks. There he is. He was born in 1912, and this is quite a story, in Fort Scott, Kansas, a segregated area. He went to a black school, was told there was no reason for him to go to school or go to college because he wasn't ever going to become anything. He was the youngest of 15 children. His mother died when he was 15. He moved in with his sister and her husband up in Minneapolis. Well, that didn't work out. So he went out and did whatever he could to earn a living. Finally, in his 20s, he got a camera, started taking pictures. He was a true Renaissance man who wrote poetry, was a director of movies, was a photographer. He worked for, I think, Life or Time. What else? Oh, Standard Oil and the Farm Service Administration in the early 1940s. He captured the life of blacks all throughout the country. He directed the movie Shaft, if you've ever seen that. It's from 1972. So this is him as a young man. He lived until he was 95. He died in 2006. It's quite a person. This is his most famous photograph, I think. It was based on American Gothic. It's an older lady that he came to know in Washington, D.C. And she is holding up a broom and mop. She had about seven or eight children, lived in extreme poverty, and he made her famous. Very nice shot of a boy playing with a bug. This is from an assignment he was given in Alabama about, this is a famous shot of his by Muhammad Ali, about Muhammad Ali. Captured him very well there. Now we get to Green Valley photographers, and I'm just going to show and read the names of people off for those of you who may not be able to read the names because of whatever reason. But these are people that you will know. Ron Amy, Lenore Bell. This is a lady in Cuba. This is about taking a selfie, and it's by Steve Carr. That's Shallow. Beautiful shot. Dean Chosey. Another one by Dean. The famous Holly Korba. A very nice shot of a lake in, I'm assuming, New York. And this is an incredible shot, I think, by Holly in New York City. Michael Day. Catherine Engel took this shot of the falls. Jan Forster. Two very nice Native American shots here by Linda Gregory. Carol Hansen. Eric Huck, I think it's Huck, I'm not sure how to say the last name. John Kay, I think it's a New Mexico sky. Dorian Knutson. And Jean Komaromi. I hope I could say your name correctly, Jean. Another very nice one from Jean. A little store in Michigan. Great black and white shot by Jeff Learman. Another by him. Marilyn Luhrmann. And then a really nice shot of her dad, which I'll stop and get to his face. That's a good one. Really nice. Sherry Lynn Lucia of The View That We All Want. This is really a fabulous shot. The stars at night. Bruce Magnuson. I assume that's Alaska, not sure. Another by Bruce. Jerry Marion, who does a lot of experimentation. Fabulous work. That's Bisbee. By Jerry. Bob Martin did that one, and the red pops out on the train. Another by Bob. And Mary Martin. Another one by Mary. Kevin May did these next two, that one also. Very cool. This is Rebecca McCreary. This is in Colorado. Another one by her. And this one is by myself in Colorado. Another Colorado lake called Trout Lake near Telluride. Jeanette Nathan, great Yosemite shot. Richard O'Neill. Wonderful lighting. Sandy Ostroff. And a great Monument Valley rainbow shot by Sandy. Another Utah shot here by Dick Page. Actually, two in a row. Here's Bob Patterson's shot of a fire, must have been about 3 years ago over in the near us. Another Bob Patterson shot. Jim Roberts on one of his motorcycles. And more of his motorcycle. Phil Rock and a sunset picture at a lighthouse near him, where he is now. Really, really nice. And this is taken down around Arivaca, I believe. Fabulous. I believe this is San Diego's Stan Scott. And this is probably near us.
Beautiful.
Very nice out here by Ron Stein, beautiful, gorgeous. And this one of the moon is exceptional.
Yikes.
Isn't that something? Grace hits her and makes you want to go here, and be there, and stay there. Very nice. And then from inside of a hotel, apparently, by Grace. The same place. Kind of a surrealistic image here by Peg Robb. Very, very nice. And out of a lunch counter by Peg. Love this one of the little girl by Jack Sherrock. Another by him. It's a little story being told by Patsy Sills. Thought that was cool. It's all about the light. Barbara Sturgis. San Javier by Barbara also. Randy Thorson. Danny Valenzuela, Roadrunner. Another by Danny. Nice shot of the mountains by John Van Veldhuizen. Their statement about this year. Rob Wells. Another by Rob. Wendell Werner. Not sure where that is. This is a Tumakopri by Wendell. Very nice. Just about the end of the day. The end. So that is it. Let's see if I can get to the stop share button. Now we're back to live action.
That was great, Paul. Can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect. Okay. I think that dinging during the show, it may have been people signing in late, or it may have been someone who had their phone on and was getting text or so. It might have been many people.
It might have been mine too. It might have been my notifications, mail, something.
Yeah. So next time, if it is, just turn those off. But at any rate, during your show, people may have written you chats, or they could do that now. So we can take some time and look at your chats and see what they have to ask you.
I got something from Patty T.
Yeah, that was great, she said, and I have to agree.
And if anybody has questions about any of the photographers or comments, I can tell you I could have done a whole half hour on any of them because they were amazing. So I could only give you a few shots from each of those people. So Dory Knutson, thanks so much.
Here we go. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
But I would like to hear how you chose those photographers.
That's a good question. I've been interested in great photography ever since I was, in my 20s, and studied them and read about them and watched them, and I always tried to find examples of how good photographs are taken. We all know of Ansel Adams and those kinds of people, but there are famous photographs like Eisenstadt's, a shot of VJ Day.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look that up, and then that leads you to another photograph, and another person. And I like going to YouTube and looking up photography, and then it'll tell that, there'll be another person. Also, in the Camera Club, there are a lot of books about photography, a lot of Weston books, Ansel Adams, many others. So, and then one thing leads to another. The internet is full of photography, a lot of books. Where did you find those classic photos is one of my questions I got from Jim Gilroy. Where did I find them? I'm answering that. So when you look up a photographer that's famous for something, they will have usually more than one really, really great photograph, because they have the eye, they have the ability. And so it's a matter of just being interested, first of all, and you can Google great photographs if you want to, and many will come up. Like the 10 most inspiring photographs of all time or something. And certain ones will always come up. The VJ Day one always comes up.
Yeah.
And others. And then when you find certain photographers, like I'd never heard of Platon, and most of you probably never have either. But go look him up. He's amazing. And you probably haven't heard of Salgado. Well, you should see his work. I mean, go and look it up, because it's just fabulous. Hundreds and hundreds of marvelous photographs. So that's kind of, thank you from Montana, Dennis Crawford. Thank you, Dennis. And note from Dean, very educational, inspiring. hopefully this will make people want to go out and take photographs. And Holly and I have talked about maybe having a presentation someday of just Green Valley people, maybe landscapes, maybe street photography, black and white, could be anything. Could be flowers, could be just anything you want, nighttime. Frank, thank you from Kamloops, British Columbia, Carol Hansen.
Hello, Carol.
And that has to be a beautiful place. From Patty Ferguson. This worked out well. I can tell you I was nervous. I thought I was going to forget things, and I probably did. But I was talking into this screen, blank screen, not blank, but just I was talking toward the photographs. So I didn't know who was there listening exactly. So if anybody has any comments about any of the particular photos that were shown, that might be nice.
Okay, I would like anybody who has comments on the Zoom presentation, it's in general, not Paul's specific information, but just how this has worked out. Just please relay them to any one of the board members or to myself by voice or email or whatever works for you. We are planning to do this again in next month. As last season, we'll have our speaker series the third Thursday of the month at 1:30 Arizona time. I know many of you are not in Arizona, so you have to figure out for yourself what time it is where you are. I know for me, the time zone changes. The time changes from daylight savings to standard on November 1st. So that makes a difference. But anyway, figure out your time. It's 1:30 Arizona time. And next up will be Grace Pitzer, who will be doing a presentation on iPhone photography, which you can read about in the newsletter. And also there will be an e-blast going out about that. Oh, and Sherry Lee Lucia has a comment for you.
Okay, one of the nice things about this format is how it makes it possible for people from all over to attend. Well, that's true.
Oh, and also, Paul, where do we find the presentation on YouTube?
Can we find this presentation on YouTube? Well, that's a good question. I think there's a link to it. Phil sent out. I don't have the answer right now, but I think if you go to YouTube, I can tell you this, if you go to YouTube and you go to the search and you put in, Masters 2 Green Valley CC, you will just see the video today without commentary. You'll just see the pictures. That's there right now.
Right. And the link that Paul sends out the link that Phil sends out will tell you where to see the one with your comments. The recording, basically, of today's Zoom, which is very cool that we can do that.
Yeah.
Technology does have its advantages when it works.
The one that I put on YouTube without commentary will be around 26 minutes long.
Oh, there it is. Here's the YouTube link. And that's to everyone. So everyone who clicked on their chat symbol at the bottom of their screen should see this from Sandy, the YouTube link.
Oh, okay. Yeah. YouTube. Yeah. They're so long and impossible to tell anybody.
Right.
But there it is. So that's it.
I think so. Thank you very much, Paul. You did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for being our first one of the season and the first to try out the Zoom like this. It was really good.
Glad to do it and would like to do it again sometime. All right.
All right.
Are we done?
Bye. Have a great week, everyone. Enjoy your fall.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.